Being an NBA fan is like taking an anatomy class all over again, bro. You get to learn about all these muscles you've never heard of before. I remember when I seen Giannis in this game against Boston go down, and he was holding his calf there, and I was hella worried because he didn't return to the game. And come to find out, he had an injury on what's called the left soleus calf. I mean, I've never heard of that before, but hey, man, I'm glad I get to take this class again, I guess. And I got to read up on the soleus being a part of the calf muscle complex.
So you can put on all your clothes.
So you tell me there's multiple muscles that are closely tied to the Achilles tendon. If they strain or might potentially tear, that could risk the Achilles also being torn. I mean, learning all that, I mean, I'm basically a biologist, right? And then the next day, these were all the injury listed for all these players. I see a lot of leg injuries here, ankles injuries, in particular, a knee injury for Markelle Fultz, right foot plantar fascia injury. I don't even know what that is. But that's in 2024. I'm sure things have changed now. I'm sure things have gotten better. Okay, never mind. Yeah, that says Derrick Jones Jr. sustained a sprained MCL. And you can pretty obviously see the cause of the play here being Jaylen Brown crashing into Derrick Jones's legs there. So, you know, that one, you know what? It's explainable. It's contact, right? It's unfortunate, but it's not something that I would make a video about like I am right now. The tweet right before that, though, Wemby has a left calf strain and is expected to be sidelined for a few weeks. Now, this one worries me a lot. And I mean, this is just terrible for the league, obviously. We all know how much of a talent Wemby is. That game against the Warriors, that was the last game he played, right?
Good pass. Oh! What a block. What a block.
One of the more ridiculous blocks I've ever seen in the clutch. I mean, whew, man, I was salivating seeing that play. But nope. A couple of weeks he'll miss, and it's a calf muscle this time that Wemby's dealing with. His first really injury that, you know, we can't really say it's a freak injury at this point. This could be the beginning of a strenuous, you know, long... I'm not going to put it out there, but I basically did. I'm not going to lie. Oh, man. And whilst players like PG were expected to make their debuts today, and...
See the... just raining down there.
George, welcome back, PG.
Great to see him back, but... that was the only 3 he made in the game. Only made 2 shots out of 9. But you know what? It's his first game back, man. Let him build some momentum. Hopefully he gets better. It's great to see Paul George back. Even Kobe White made his debut off a calf injury that he was recovering from.
3. White. Marketed is there. White scoops in and scores!
There's a foul.
First game of the year for White. And he sends it to double overtime.
Now, the Bulls did end up losing this game, you know, thanks to a Lowry marketing masterclass. Giddey did all he could. Kobe impressed in his debut. I mean, the Bulls played about as well as he could, and the Utah just played better. And thankfully, they got rewarded. Even though they're on a, you know, back-to-back here, they still were able to beat the Nuggets at Denver. Now, Kobe didn't play due to it being a back-to-back, of course, right? What was the topic again? Oh, yeah, injuries, yeah. So... as we got guys like Kobe White coming back from a calf injury, we're just seeing more and more of these star players, even players regardless, getting out with lower leg injuries. And the concerning amount of them are starting to become left groin muscle strains, right? Muscle injuries, which is where we get to what happened last night as I'm recording this video.
Allen has the assignment. Giannis driving, can't get it to go, and scooped up and in off the offensive rebound by Kuzma.
The last thing you want to see is him even grimacing at all.
He is not moving well.
It's a groin too. It looks like you can't tell, but look, he's going right to the bench.
Jeez, you just hate to see this. He's playing so well.
He's going straight to the back.
Locker room.
This is the last thing the Bucks want to see as fans and as players and everybody involved. Him going straight to the locker room, yeah, he had to go, man. This seems more serious than initially thought. Is he going through the LeBron career arc in fast forward mode? Like, what's going on? Like, we all know the Shams suite is coming at any moment. We haven't seen it yet as I'm recording this, but we're going to see this breaking news. Talk about Giannis has a left groin strain and is expected to be sidelined for a few weeks. And what's crazy is I heard people say that he was holding his groin earlier in the game too. So this wasn't just the first time in this game that he had been bothering him. Some people are probably watching this video thinking, Is this the only reason you made this video? Because Giannis' groin gave out in a game in November? And if that's what you got so far in this video, man, God bless you, bro. There's nothing else I can say. You're just gonna be a hater. But I think you and I can see a pattern developing in this league. To start the season, it's only been a month, but we're seeing more and more injuries that are lower leg, muscle strains, and it seems to indicate that there's something amiss here. There's something wrong right now. Like, it's not just me seeing this, right? I think we're all seeing this being a pattern. It's just, bro, how much longer are we going to keep seeing the same reports for different players and realize, yeah, there's something that's definitely going wrong, bro. Like, something needs to change. Like, brother, even rookies are getting this injury. Like, what is happening to this league, bro? What is happening to my league, bro? The league I fell in love to, bro. It's getting worse, bro. And look, we've seen knee injuries in the past too. We've seen muscle strains. We've seen all that things. I referenced LeBron in 2019, right? It's happened before. But it's the frequency of certain injuries that I'm seeing that suggests to me that it's more than just, oh, players are getting hurt. This is the first month of the NBA season and we're seeing this many reports of players getting hurt. So are we ready to have that conversation as a community about what needs to be done, really? Of something that Adam Silver and the execs at the top are closely monitoring. They've been monitoring this stuff for years, but aren't willing to actually address the issues? We keep having to retake the same anatomy class solely because Adam Silver doesn't want to address the elephant in the room. The game has changed a lot over the years, right? And we're seeing a game that's completely different than what it was decades ago. I invite anybody to go on YouTube and look up highlights of the 90s and the 80s, right? Actually, fuck that. Let's watch a full game, right? Let's see. Let's just skip to a certain part of the game. 1993 Finals Game 2. We've got your usual transition plays right here. Outlet pass towards slam dunk, right? We had that in the 90s. Sure. Now let's look at the half court, right? We're not seeing that much movement off ball. Give it to the guy in the post and the foul. Like, I want you to pay attention to the movements off ball. Not a lot of cutting. Not much is being done. There's actually a lot of people in the paint cluttered there. I mean, a lot of these guys are just cluttered in the paint. How many people are you seeing in the paint right now? 6, 7?
Here's King, the shot clock running down. And it's a 3-second violation called on Chicago.
That is right, folks. A play that would end in an open shooter in the corner. But the Bulls, too many people camped up in the paint, so much so that one person was there standing there for over 3 seconds. Oh, man. This is the pinnacle of basketball at the time. I'm not even skipping through that much. Like, this is basically around the same point in the game, right? And basically, this is the Bulls. This is the cutting edge of off-ball movements in the 90s. Now, I want you to look at this game from yesterday and notice how many people are in the paint at one time during a possession, right? You see 2 Bulls in the paint right there, right? Now, nobody's in the paint. And now teams that play 5 out, I mean, nobody's in the paint now. And what does that mean for the game today? It means a lot. The geometry of the court is getting stretched. You have to guard players differently than you used to back then. And just look, how many people are in the paint? Jokic is one person in the paint. And then there's one person, and then there's a person cutting. Look at how much space is being given in the paint because of how stretched out the floor has become. And then right here, Jokic frees up this guy with a DHO screen right there. Look at that. Oh, Jalen Pickett with the 3. Now, you still might not be convinced because Denver's one of the best offenses in the league. But the key point I want to get across here is the difference in terms of movement in the game today compared to the 90s. I don't know if you've just seen what Pat Compton has had to do. He's had to go side to the side, go back, contest, then close out. Now he goes back in the paint. And especially when your rotations aren't that clean. Look, off a switch, right? Scotty Barnes has to make up for that and then goes inside right there. The game has been more taxing today than it is now, man. You have to tag players off screens, right? Your screen navigation that game has to be better. More transition plays are being ran by teams like the Raptors, for example, right? Where right here, you see them push the ball off a missed shot. Scotty Barnes gives it to Jakob Poeltl. This is a 7-footer that many people deem slow-footed. He's running the floor. The frequency of transition plays adds to the movement of the league just being at a much quicker pace. And I already know what people are going to say. The pace was just as high, if not higher, in the 80s and the 70s. I mean, come on, 2-for-1. You should know this. And yes, you could see the pace being faster in the 80s, right? Especially in transition. I mean, right here, the Showtime Lakers going crazy. This Magic Johnson. I mean, you're obviously going to get a lot of buckets in transition with Magic Johnson at the helm there, right? But I think a big difference from the 80s to today's game is what happens in the half court much more often, right? There are movements being made. You see cuts being made, but a lot of the pace being faster is transition buckets being, the frequency being higher in that era. It's just that a key difference that you see in these games in the 80s, even the 90s, is how many people are in the paint in the half court. I mean, it's maddening. I mean, obviously, compared to now, like, there's so much clutter there. In today's game, you often don't see that anymore, to where bigs can actually cut inside and relatively be open for a dunk. And what am I trying to point out here? Basically, players have to cover way more ground in today's game, regardless of how much pace there's. If you have to cover more ground, that means you have to move more. And when teams switch more as well, as they do in today's, oh my, what a dunk. As I was saying, if teams have to cover more ground on defense, what does that mean in terms of movements, in terms of wear and tear on the body over time? NBA teams have to play 82 games a season, right? Right? The same amount of games that they were played in the 80s and 90s. And whilst people complain about how players are soft in this era and how, players have to load manage now compared to back then, where 82 was a norm for a lot of these star players. But the simple logic would follow that if you have to cover more ground, that means you have to move more. That means your muscles wear out more often in this day and age than they did back then in the 82 game season. Teams move faster off ball. They even do so on ball. Rotations have to be sharp. I mean, look at this change of pace, change of direction from both sides. Even bigs have to move much faster nowadays. I mean, this sport demands more of your body than it ever did, right? And I think that's something that we need to talk about more when it comes to this whole injury management decisions that these teams are making. There's a reason why teams are making these decisions over time. And it's because the 82 game season, as we know it, is just not a sustainable model for this league and where it's headed, right? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I haven't even gotten into the amount of wear and tear that the youth in basketball are going through at this moment. This is an article from, let's see here, 2019. Okay, and 6 years later, the same problems persist, and players, especially American pros, coming out of the AAU circuits, they come in worn out, more worn out than their predecessors did. This article details, Zion's experience, right, in the AAU circuit and how he's come into the league and how basically that's impacted his career long term. And it talks about, the doctors that, work with kids, noticing more and more kids coming to their offices with injuries that you would normally see from adults or young adults for that matter. And it's because these kids were playing basically 4 to 5 days a week basketball. I mean, this is going to wear on you, right? It says here he was doing drills all the time and he was playing and landed wrong. This paragraph is what scared me. When I read this, man, my heart broke, man. In the years that followed, Pandia says more kids that age began to come in, and the operating room filled with surgical trainees who came to watch because they had never seen such injuries to kids. But in time, it became so commonplace that soon the shock wore off. No longer did an ACL surgery to an 8-year-old raise eyebrows, nor did the constant stream of patients so young seem unusual. That's just one element of this whole cluster mess that we're in right now, man, when it comes to basketball and where it's at right now. The kids are also going through it. It's not just the guys in the pros, right? Talks about how Zion's mom even said basketball is all he does. He doesn't have time for anything else. Zion, contrary to popular belief, many people say this guy doesn't take basketball seriously. He would probably argue that he takes it so seriously, in fact, that that's all he does. As a teenager, it was all he did because he wanted to work up to that point. And now that he's there, maybe he's just settled and he's like, you know what? This is good. This is good enough. But in hindsight, it feels like a lot of these injuries we see to these younger players, we should have seen them coming, really. Especially seeing that, articles like these were being published in 2019, right? So we should have probably seen all of this coming. if anything. And in March of 2023, when the whole debate about load management happened, the same writer of that article, well, he talked about how the current load management debate is simply not rooted in science or medicine. A major factor is many players now enter the NBA with badly broken bodies. And, obviously references the article that he reported on years ago. A big chunk of it is the culture around sports these days. Kids are now being told to specialize on one sport early, right? A lot of kids before, decades ago, they could play all sorts of different sports, and then they could stick to that one sport that they really want to play later on in life. And I think this tweet also, serves to address what I was saying, right? Trying to compare eras and saying which one's tougher. By any means, I'm not saying that the past era is weaker than this era, or that this era, kids have it way harder now than they do back. Some of that may be true, some of that may not be true. But this tweet, I think, exemplifies something that we need to take into account more often than usual. Simply saying that one era was tougher than the current era is short-sighted. So much has changed. Just ask team doctors and athletic trainers. Ask NBA GMs. Ask youth coaches and orthopedic surgeons. This discussion must evolve for the better. Why is it that we demonize those that, load manage throughout a season? Why isn't it that we don't ask why they are load managing in the first place? Why is it that so often we bash players today for basically not doing what players 30 years ago were doing, when things back then were different than they are today? It's not to say that one era is worse than the other or one era is better than the other. It's to say that things are different now. Why are we talking about it as if things remain the same? Basketball as a sport has changed tremendously over the years. As frustrating as it is to see players like Kawhi, who always seem to get hurt, always seem to never be able to get over the hump when it comes to managing the injuries. Why is it that we demonize them? Why is it not that we try to see if there's a better way to address the problem, right? Why is it that we, instead of being constructive, we're just going to be punitive with it. We're going to be reactive. And for all the good that Adam Silver may have done throughout his tenure as commissioner, I think that's what the 65-game rule exemplifies the most. This approach that is quite punitive, instead of trying to be more constructive, to try to work with the players in the league, to try to come up with a much more sophisticated solution.
I think it was an attempt, obviously, for whenever fans show up to games and there's obviously load management happening and all the stars aren't playing on particular evenings. Like, there was a couple times where somebody was coming to Indiana to play and literally the place sold out for whoever, and then they get there and that person's not, they're just sitting there. That's not good for the player, because that player's getting booed by those fans that are there. Not good for the league, because obviously you're maybe selling something that isn't the case. So you come to the 65-game agreement where you have to play this amount of time to get awards. Now, in your league, if you get awards, that bumps up paydays and future contracts, so they very much matter. Now, with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, and a little bit of backlash of the situation, how do you feel about the 65-game minimum thing? Will that evolve? Will that change? And do you think this has been good overall for the NBA fan experience, which I think is the only thing that really matters at the end of the day in the conversation?
Well, great point. I think generally it's been very positive, and you can look at the numbers in terms, just take the pool of all-star players, and if you looked at the number of games to date that they had played last season, essentially to the all-star break, and compared it to this season, it's up significantly in terms of, because they care about eligibility for awards. I think because what that means for their legacy, and there's financial implications.
In hindsight, we should all realize how short-sighted this rule was, and how, quite frankly, it was at the disservice of the players. Despite the Players Association agreeing to it, they basically just shot themselves in the foot inevitably. What's crazy is a few days after that interview, Halliburton ends up going down to a hamstring injury. Then obviously it was a grade 1 hamstring strain, after which he had to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. And people are relieved, right? The tweet says that he avoided major injury. And it seemed like there was optimism for Halliburton to return to the lineup for the Celtics weeks later, which is, great to see. He'd missed 10 of the past 11 games. And around this time, the 65-game rule was in effect. Halliburton, coming off of the greatest stretch of his career thus far, going to the finals in the in-season tournament. I mean, he was just going crazy.
Tyrese Halliburton being helped off before by his teammates.
And when he came back from basketball here, I mean, he was just making plays like he was before, but you could tell there was a bit of a difference. Even though he showed out during his first All-Star appearance, that hamstring, I mean, it was still bothering him even when he was playing.
So how do you not Like, you obviously care a lot, but how do you not let like weigh on you when you're like, man, like I'm in this space I've probably never been in before in my basketball career?
Yeah, that's a good question. Figuring it out. Obviously, it's frustrating. I'm a guy who wants to play at all times, and this shit just sucks.
He's a warrior. He was going to push through this whole thing, and he was going to keep playing despite it.
Did you feel like a sense of urgency to come back sooner than maybe?
Yeah, no question.
You did.
Yeah, what? And then not from like our medical staff, but or
no,
like
for
that,
sure.
But like from
like a $53 million incentive type thing.
But the numbers after the injury weren't the same, and you could tell watching some of these games that he probably should not be playing in a lot of these games. He probably should be resting up more, but he can't. He has to get that on NBA eligibility. He has to play minimum 65 games, and if he misses a bit more games, he'll be cut off from the eligibility. So he has to play a lot of these games in which, he's looking like a shell of himself, quite frankly. He has one 30-point game here, but I think that's the only 30-point game he had in this stretch of games post All-Star break. I mean, this is just, it's very sad to see. Like Haliburton having to play these games knowing that if he doesn't, he's gonna lose out on award eligibility. And it's a very arbitrary criteria. Oh, you have to play 65 games. And what do you know? He ends up playing 69 games. Nice. And he gets the All-NBA third team nod, which gives him a boost in revenue, boost in money making. Like, it's just, you feel bad for a player like Haliburton, who even he complained about this rule before all this happening.
The MRI was like good results. Like our medical staff was like, these are the best results we could possibly get. Like,
was it grade 2?
It was
grade 1.
Grade 1.
It was grade 1.
Grade 1.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, how can I get back as fast as possible? What's the right way? And then kind of after we traded for Pascal, and I knew he was going to play in that Portland game, and that was kind of the game that we were eyeing. Like it was either that game, and as soon as the trade for Pascal went through, I was kind of like, damn, not only is it the game I'm eyeing, that's the game I'm playing. Like if Pascal's coming, I want to be a part of the first game. Like, and the medical staff agreed. Like I felt good enough. And then after that, like I played a certain amount of minutes, and towards the end of the game, I could feel my leg hurting. Like there was a play where Aaron went to flip the ball to me, and I was going the other way, and it went back court. And when I bent to pick up the ball, I was like, "Oh, this is not good." That night, I like remember getting in the car going back to the hotel, and I like had to sit down and pick my leg up to put it in the car. Like I couldn't really lift it. And so I was like, oh, this is not good. And then that's when like I think a lot of frustration boiled over, because it was like I thought I was ready to go for the Portland game, and so did our medical staff. Everybody agreed. But I don't think if this was never the case, I might have been like
another week.
Yeah, maybe give it another game or two. Let me think more through this. Like let's try to be 100%. And even now with this whole, I've had a minutes restriction now for the last 2 weeks, and it's
what's your is it 25?
It's changed. I mean, it started at 20, and then it's ramped up, and it's been fucking terrible. Like I hated it.
I think a lot of people, when they first heard of the 65 game rule, they thought it would be exempt for situations like these where, a guy's recovering from an injury, and you want the guy to not rush back. You want the guy to still be able to get eligibility for these awards, and basically not have to rush himself back. Like, why is it that we're incentivizing players to rush back from injuries too quickly? And that might be the most damning part in all this, what he just said there. Oh man, Adam Silver, you will pay for your crimes, buddy. That's like Haliburton. Like, you don't want players like Haliburton to have to rush back, especially a tricky injury like a hamstring strain. Muscle strains are tricky. They can get re-aggravated very easily if you don't, be careful with them. And what do you know? This injury would reoccur in the playoffs. During the conference finals, you would have to miss the last 2 games of the conference finals because of this very same injury. And what's even more disturbing is how in the following season, after going on a deeper postseason run, in a game 7 in the finals, after dealing with a calf strain, the worst that could happen did happen. And it's relevant to explain that, yeah, these injuries are occurring now in the playoffs too. Not just to guys like Damian Lillard who are in their, mid-30s. Guys like Jason Tatum, Tyrese Haliburton, who, for Jason Tatum, he was just entering his prime years. Okay, Haliburton, he's 2 years away from that 27-year age, right? And he's now having to recover from an injury that we would usually see from an older player in their mid-30s. And what's even more damning is how Adam Silver's statements from 2024 earlier on aged so poorly, talking about how more stars are playing now because of this new rule. Well, now in 25-26 season to start, nearly half of all NBA stars are hurt now. They're not playing. What the fuck? I think the NBA has to do something about these lower leg injuries that we're seeing more and more of. A lot of these lower leg strains, muscle tear. I mean, it's just becoming obvious that there needs to be a change. And clearly the 65-game rule is incentivizing the wrong actions. Like, I just pulled up a random tweet talking about injuries to start a season. This is the 24-25 season. And most of these injuries are muscle strains. Okay, like even last year, the pattern was already being set. And as a longtime Giannis fan, my biggest fear now is that Giannis is gonna have to be incentivized to rush back if he wants to make another All-NBA first team because of this arbitrary criteria of playing 65 games in an era where, quite frankly, the game is just not sustainable. 82 games is not a sustainable model anymore. And so instead of wailing in despair and falling to my doom, I'm going to try to outline a solution that I think the NBA should, take a close look at. Okay, so we have to understand NBA, they're a greedy company like all the other big greedy corporations. And so reducing the amount of games played in the season is a non-starter. We know this. It's unfortunate. It's the reality. The NBA doesn't want to lose revenue. They don't want to lose, games played. They want to have 82 games in the season. Okay, fine. Maybe there's a way to work around that. Maybe there's a way that we can extend the gaps in between games without losing the amount of games played in a season that could work for all parties involved. Maybe you've got to extend it like in football, European football, that is, how they basically, it seems like, play all year round over the duration of a season. Now, of course, for them, right, you add in the fact they play international play during international break. They also play the domestic league. They also play in continental tournaments as well. And there's also different sorts of tournaments in between the season. So it's not just 40 games or 38, right, during a season for like the Premier League, for example. They play other games outside of that. So you could say the NBA's model could work alongside this as an example, where the off season is basically the summer, June and July. And then in August, you ramp up during a preseason. And then in September, maybe that's when the season begins. I think that's something the NBA would have to take a close look at, right? Maybe the fans, maybe the players won't be too happy, but it'll probably be worth it if you won't have to play back-to-backs anymore. I mean, get rid of that archaic concept. Y'all remember when Zion said this in the past about him playing back-to-backs?
Let me make this clear to everybody out there. If I can play in the back-to-backs, I would. I physically, yes, I can. But I work for the Pelicans. They have decided that based off the numbers, it's not smart to do that right now. So, if that's what they feel, I'm rocking with them on that. But yes, if I could play in a back-to-back, I would.
There's a reason more and more teams are pushing for their players to never play in back-to-backs anymore, especially players that are dealing with these injuries, these, recurring injuries. It's the smarter thing to do, quite frankly. It's the wiser thing to do if you want to have an extended career in the NBA. I probably laughed in the past because Embiid made this comment, right? I was like, oh my God, you can't even play back-to-backs. This guy's weak. But now I'm just empathetic to these players, bro. Like, I'm just growing up and I'm realizing, bro, this could be anybody, bro. This could be anybody in Embiid's spot here. And it's like, bro, like, can we just address the problem that's obvious? It's not just Embiid. It's not just all these players need help, bro. They need time to recover. And I don't want this comment section to turn into another one of these Reddit post comments about injuries and load management. And it's like every time this discussion gets had, we're just going to bash the players, as I've done in the past too. I'm guilty of this too. I want to turn a new leaf on this channel. I want to turn a new leaf on the discussions of players load managing, because it does make sense for players to do that. It's made sense for years. Even when Kawhi did in Toronto, it made sense. It even led them to a championship. I mean, what the hell are we even talking about here? And I think that's something the NBA hated to see. They hated the fact that it worked for Toronto and Kawhi. They hated the fact that because of that, it pushed more people to pursue that as a serious thing, right? They hate that because now they have to deal with this problem becoming even more obvious to the fans. The fans now, oh man, the fans now are going to be more and more aware of their favorite players getting hurt. And now it's like, man, I wish my player load managed during the season instead of having to rush back in the game because of financial incentives that were placed there because of some misguided rule put in by Adam Silver and the Players Association. Agree, like it's just it doesn't benefit anybody. And this comment thread here is actually funny because it talks about how they're trying to. This is a reason yet again that they want to get rid of back-to-backs. And then people, the solution being shorten their season, but that'll never happen. Exactly. The cynical part of us, we know money drives the league. And so they're never going to shorten. They're never going to lose money, right? They're never going to want to lose money from these games. So you're going to have to extend the season as that's the most logical solution. And at this point, we're just waiting for the inevitable. Adam Silver in a press conference basically saying that as much like the season's going to have to be extended because we're not going to try to reduce games because we want money. And hopefully with those changes in place, we could have less Embiids in the league. We could have more thriving careers. Because I'll tell you what, if the NBA fucks up the biggest golden goose they've been handed since LeBron James, you will never be able to recover. You will never get back to the levels you were at before. The NBA needs to do this solely to make sure Wemby's career can last as long as it can.